Hello, Savage Flight Crew. Okay. Seems like it's been a while. Took a little quick break. Had a great time in Europe. Um, it wasn't long, but uh, this has been, like you said, quite long flight. I'm quite sure many of you share my feelings. I was talking with others in the industry, in the sports world, and entertainment and technology. And in the sports world, as we know, it's still going on. For example, with track and field, we still got 3 weeks until World Championships. But basically, you just try to line everything up before we reload. Everything that's great. Everything's running into each other. Football is heating up. Quite sure we got all the fans excited about jumping on their fan bandwagons and those of us who are training. You release them. It's time to get it up. It's time to get it on. Um, so whatever the sport is, schools are starting. Schools have started. For example, down here in Florida, started early. In addition to that, uh, I want to focus in on the point before we launch into the next stratosphere of sports for this coming year as we move into 26. Yeah, it's coming that fast. Um, by slowing down and making sure everyone understands, uh, we always often forget it's not about us. It's a team. I've always believed great teams make great things happen in my life. And to that whole theme we had about Pathfinders with Yvonne Odom and excellence. Hoping you guys are still enjoying that. But this is on another note, but it's still related. And that's you got your team, and the team has to be collaborative, especially nowadays where everyone is out there swinging and grabbing and fighting for their space in a time where, bullyism is prime time. Um, but for another topic. But what I want to do is focus in on the positive. The Savage Flight team, Savage Flight crew, and break it down behind the scenes before we launch into another year. And I want to focus in on how it's so important. You have to have that, at least from my philosophy, a G force. And what does that mean? You gotta find the collaborative ways for all the generations to work together because everybody doesn't get everything. And we all know everybody doesn't like everybody or listen to everybody. Maybe like may not be the word always. In that case, a G-force consists of the generations of the boomer meets the Gen X, meets the millennial, meets the Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and then the Gen Alpha. And that's how you have to, there's no way you can deliver messaging and services unless you have other people that understand what's going on at that certain level or below them, right? So if you're going to do Pee Wee to Pro, which is what we do with Savage Flight, and on the sports side, um, you have to have people to talk and say, no, Coach Nick, you don't get this, I, or you need to let me deliver that message, or I may need to deliver the message coming from a higher, not higher level, but years of experience where you might have seen that scenario before. But without further ado, what I want to do is introduce my team that works with me and tell a little bit how, we got together. In this case, it's going to be first one up is going to be RJ Brooks. RJ is the cool Gen Xer, okay? And RJ and I, it usually happens where the samurais, you're dueling against each other at some point, and then you get a respect for the fact that you competed against each other, and then you end up working together. So he was at a different facility uh, where I had previous services in that facility before they reorganized or regrouped, working with Gold's Gym. Uh, but RJ has always been quiet, great guy, and he was always open in some cases just learning or sharing and talking, even though he may have been working with other coaches. So somehow, we knew each other 15 years ago, and then we started working together about, I guess, about 10 years ago. And, it's always been open, willing, and able for us to share, move forward, and share, in some cases, some of his resources that were at his school. Say, hey, two hardest things that most people have is saying, I need help or I don't know. And one thing I've always shared with, team members around me is those are the two things that I have to constantly make sure I'm saying because you don't know everything. Actually, you don't know anything. And that to me, my mentors taught me is the key to wisdom, that at the end of the day, you really don't know anything because you're in the next moment. So you always have to be open and willing to share, but also be willing to show vulnerability. So RJ has been a great team member, listener, and learner, which we all have to do as a group. It's as far as coaching, it's RJ Brooks, Jovan Smith. We'll talk about Jovan at another time. But with that being said, I'm not going to overtalk. Uh, RJ has been great. He has his gifts and he has talent. He's developed. He continues to develop as Coach of the Year in 2024 in the world of track and field, in alliance with Troy, who I know well, um, at Tuscarora. But without further ado, next up, Pathfinder, RJ Brooks, whose first name is Roderick. Thanks again, RJ.